Hello on the Daily Family. It's Danielle coming to you with another episode of Unplugged with D. This week, I want to just kind of reflect back on, that interview with Shay. I was introduced to Shay through Chris Chandler, and I didn't actually know his whole story. We chatted a little bit before the interview, but I didn't actually know his whole story. So I learned just as much as you did. And it just struck me so deeply to the core, because I think what he said, that his addiction wasn't the cause, it was the solution. And that just keeps playing in my head, because so many people I've seen struggle with, maybe it's substance abuse, maybe it's overeating, maybe it's, just eating bad foods, maybe it's, not sleeping enough, and a lot of these self-doubt, right? Even just the way that we talk to ourselves and the way that we talk to each other, a lot of these things are not the reason, they are the solution for whatever has happened. And that trauma that we can experience as kids is just so real. And I want, if you're listening to this out there and you feel like you're walking through a season, have you taken time to really peel back and figure out what the inciting incident was? I don't know. I just think Shay is hearing his story just makes me think of all the ways that I've been coping over the years with, I've never suffered from substance abuse or, really, of course I've been depressed at times, but I've never suffered from diagnosed depression aside from when I had my son. But there are definitely times where I will feel like shit, and so I'll eat like shit, and then that makes me feel worse, so then I eat worse, and it's just this cycle. And I've often blamed myself in those moments. I've beaten myself up about what is wrong with me, when really I probably could have traced it back to I'm unhappy with something in my life and I'm not honoring that. And so I'm coping with basically treating my body like a trash panda, as I like to call it, which is a raccoon. Because I am absolutely a sugar addict, and it's taken me a long time to not be, or to be able to deal with that, because I have no self-control typically when it comes to sugar. And I started to think back to, when did that start? When did I start coping by eating junk food? And I think it really traces back to just being in high school. My mom and I really didn't get along that well when I was in high school. We butt heads a lot. And I actually ended up moving in with my dad when I was a freshman in high school, because my mom and I couldn't live together. And I ate sugar all the time, for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. I loved sour candy. I ate it all the time. And then when I was 21, I had a scare. I was pre-diabetic. And my dad was type 1 diabetic. He was child onset type 1 diabetes. And so I knew better. I knew not to eat a bunch of sugar growing up. But I think after talking with Shay, I started to kind of go down and do some work as to why was I so into sugar? I think it's just because that was my coping mechanism. The sugar, obviously, if you don't know, sugar very much affects your brain. It affects the same pleasure parts of your brain that drugs do. Cocaine, heroin, they affect all the same parts of your brain, and they mess with your serotonin levels and your dopamine levels and all the things. And so I think I was so full of anxiety and just stress because I wasn't getting along with my mom, and I didn't understand why. And, obviously her and I have long made up and we're great now, but, going through that as a teenager was really hard. I think harder than definitely harder than I gave credit to. And I think I realized after talking with Shay that I coped by just eating a bunch of sugar. I struggled with that until I was in my 30s. So it's just really interesting that, I think we've all been guilty of, if we see somebody who is addicted to drugs or alcohol or, is chronically obese, right? And this is nothing against, like, this is not a conversation about body positivity or, beauty at every size. Like, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, chronically obese, right? We tend to judge people really quickly and be like, oh, well, why don't you just, get off drugs? Or why don't you just, stop eating that? Or why don't you just stop drinking? And of course, that's easier said than done, because it is a mental issue that we are dealing with. But I think we collectively need to take more of a pause to really understand that people, there was probably some trauma that happened. And then the situation that this person may find themselves in is actually the way that they are coping. I just really appreciate people like Shay because they're so willing to share their story so openly and vulnerably. And it really does teach us more about humans. Humans are just such a beautiful, chaotic, complex race. And we're all so different. I think Angela Davis said it on our podcast. We are graced with our race. This is our race. And the race that we are going through in this life that we're given is unique to us. And it has a story. And that story needs to be told. So I want you to know that I see you, even if I can't actually see you. I am holding space for anybody that is going through a season of their life where they find themselves coping with any of their trauma with something that may not be the healthiest for them. And to people like Shay who are doing the work and sharing their story so vulnerably, you are so needed in this world. You are so valuable and needed in this world because what you have is a gift, and that gift is helping people feel like they are not alone. And that, my friend, is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I love you all so much. I can't tell you how amazing the support of this podcast has been. Every single time I go and I look at the reviews or I read comments or if somebody slides into my DMs on Instagram, if you are wanting to connect with me on Instagram, I am Danielle_on_the daily. And I would love to talk to you. But every time somebody shares something or retweets or whatever, I don't have a Twitter. I say retweet, but it's really just share an Instagram story. I am so pumped. And I get like a little kid in a candy store. I do a literal happy dance. I want to bring this podcast to everybody. I am so in love with this podcast. I'm having so much fun with this podcast, and the guests that I get to talk to every week are just so amazing. And the fact that so many of you are so into what I have to say, know this, that I, from the bottom of my heart, have so much gratitude for you. And I'm going to keep showing up for you because you show up for me, and I'm so grateful. I hope you have the most amazing day wherever you are. And we'll see you again on Tuesday for our first episode in frickin' April 2021. Where is the time going? Anyway, have a good day.